We're starting to see another rise in COVID-19 cases, prompting sports to make adjustments, including some cancellations. We're talking how it's affecting the Pac-12 across the board on today's episode of Locked On Pac-12 podcast.
You are Locked On Pac-12, your daily podcast on the Pac-12 Conference. It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Pac-12 podcast. I'm your host, Cindy Robinson. Joining me today is Bryan Brown from Locked On Utes. Today's episode is brought to you by Sonos. Sonos is the official sponsor of ESPN College Football. Go to Sonos.com to learn more. Today is kind of a tough one to talk about. You know, we're in holiday season, and it's supposed to be great and amazing and full of fun and love and happiness. And a lot of people didn't get a chance to spend Christmas holiday with their families because of the rise in cases of COVID-19. I know a lot of my friends actually tested positive and weren't able to go home and be with their families. And now we're seeing it affect sports again. This is kind of like a repeat of 2020, how we saw it all. Well, 2019, sorry, how we saw it all start. Well, no, 2020.
Every year. It just feels
I'm
like every
confused.
year right now.
Like, wait, I'm confused now. It's been so long. I don't even know the years that it started. Okay, 2020 March, right, is when it started. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because then we went, okay, sorry, guys. So we're seeing a repeat of 2020, and it's almost as if because of the new variants, it is literally starting all over again. And I think that sports is trying to push through it, but we're kind of seeing it get to a moment of it might start halting things more than we want them to. Somehow we got through the full football season before we started seeing games be affected. We know the USC versus Cal game was the only game during season that got postponed. And now we're in playoffs, looking forward to bowl games and things like that. And unfortunately, a Pac-12 bowl game has already been affected. Miami has had to drop out of the Sun Bowl, leaving Washington State searching for a replacement. First off, is that not weird, Bryan? Like searching for a replacement instead of just canceling it?
It is, and I think that's the part about bowl season that it really throws a wrench into everything, right? Is these games don't matter in the long term, but they do, because it's for conferences like the AAC where so much of it is of their revenue is based on bowl season. Like it's a big deal. For the Sun Bowl, where it's a huge deal for the community in El Paso, like they want to have the bowl game. They want to show off and celebrate and everything like that. And it's a crummy thing, because I feel like a deja vu all over again in terms of, and here I am just graveling into the microphone, not COVID positive, thankfully, but sick nonetheless. And it's, it just keeps cycling through this. And I think really the disappointing part about it is that there are teams like Washington State that I think really want to play another game that are kind of getting held up in this mess.
Yeah, and in the grand scheme of things, we look at the opportunities for the student athletes. Like, they worked so hard to have the season that they had and to play in a bowl game, and now to possibly have it wiped from under them. And it sucks because it's not like it was a COVID protocol situation on their end. It was the other team. And yes, health is the most important thing, but like, in some sense, I'm sure Washington State feels like we did the proper things to make sure that we were healthy and staying, COVID free. And it sucks that something out of their control is now keeping them from possibly playing in this bowl game. And in their eyes, winning the bowl game, So I wonder now, moving forward from this, if they'll actually be able to find a replacement, how that will even be decided. I know that Washington State flew out to El Paso, so they already landed. And then the news dropped, I think, that same day that Miami would have to drop out. So the scrambling of finding a replacement team is kind of like weird, because for one, it's like all that goes into planning a bowl game and planning the travel for a bowl game and all of that. I don't see how they could do that in a matter of days for a team, especially if a team already thought they were done with their season. Are they even prepared, like, practice wise, whatever the case may be? Because anybody that's been practicing, I'm guessing, is playing in a bowl game already. So how could they replace? I think you're muted. Yeah.
I'm never. It's just gonna be a thing. I'm never gonna get over the muting. I'm gonna blame the cold on it this time because I'm sniffling and coughing a little bit. But I think the hard part about it is just there are regulations right now, right? They're not gonna let teams that have already played a bowl game play again. You have to have a certain APR if you're a 5-7 team, and there's a lot of that kind of thing going on. I think the hardest part about it is that there's a lot of those 5-7 teams that haven't been together and haven't been practicing. And so throwing them into a game dead cold like that, that's not a good idea at all. And so I get wanting to replace and fit teams in there and whatnot. It's a mess because this is the time of year where some teams are at it and practicing or have been practicing, but a lot of them are not. And so I think, it's going to require some rule changes. It's going to require some give and take. I think we're going to have probably an announcement by Monday afternoon about what the plan is for the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. But it's just, here we are all over again. And I want to be empathetic to the fact that, this is a scary virus still, and there's a lot that we don't know. But at the same time, I think it's not going away, and things aren't going to change in terms of, can you just eliminate it? Because right. I think we've just passed that point as a society, as a world at its whole. So we have to find some ways to adapt and move through it. And so that's, having to do that all on the fly the last week of the college football season. I do not envy administrators. I do not envy players. I do not envy coaches. I do not envy anybody in this situation. I do not envy fans that are having to sit on their hands and wait and see if they're actually going to be able to make their trips or watch their teams play. It's very stress-inducing, which, how else are we going to finish 2021, right?
Right. Of course, it's only fitting. Coming up next, we're going to dive deeper into how COVID-19 might affect some of those other bowl games that are set to happen later this week. And then we're also going to dive into how it's affecting basketball season already. So it sucks, but it's kind of still our reality. And even though most people are thinking like we're getting over a hump with COVID-19, it does not seem to be letting up just yet. This holiday season, make sure you grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better than a candy bar. That is Built Bar. It's filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat. And it's high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. There's so many flavors to choose from. I know I have a hard time choosing. Bryan is the type to choose them all because he's, a little more adventurous than me. But there's raspberry or mint brownie, cherry or double chocolate, cookies and cream, or peanut butter brownie. Built Bar gives you that extra fuel you need to bust down those mall doors for those after Christmas sales, or, just standing in endless shopping lines. Built Bar can give you that extra something to keep you going. So throw one in your jacket or purse. You never know when you're going to need it. And I know a lot of you probably have the workout resolution for the new year. Well, Built Bar can help you get through those tough workout days. Again, high in protein and just the snack you need to give you that extra fuel. So make sure you go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's built.com, promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Thanks again for making Locked On Pac-12 podcast your first listen every day. Make sure to check out the Ultimate College Football Playoff Preview 2021, local experts, betting advice, and draft analysis. The most comprehensive college football playoff preview begins this Friday. Okay, Bryan. So we've been talking about COVID-19 and how it's affecting Pac-12 sports right now. More recently, the bowl games. We almost got through the full football season without any issues, but of course it wouldn't be right. So now some bowls already been affected. We already see that. Washington State's looking for a replacement to play against. And there's at least 4 other bowl. I'm trying to make sure I'm counting right because there were 6. Yes, 4 other bowl games still set to happen this week. And so far, we haven't heard any news about them being canceled or anybody pulling out. But the possibility of that happening is looming over the heads of everyone that's involved with the bowl game system. And we all know the most exciting bowl game for the Pac-12 that we're looking forward to is the Rose Bowl. And with the thought of Utah playing in that bowl game, you're actually supposed to be attending and covering it. What are your thoughts about the possibility of that being canceled?
I mean, it would suck. I think the state of Utah would probably go into a massive state of depression, which, given our normal ability or love for sugary cookies and drinks and happiness around here, that would be a big deal. But I think when we're looking at some of these cancellations, I think it's important to isolate why a lot of this is happening. Hawaii had 15 players opt out of the bowl game. That's why they weren't able to fulfill the health and safety protocols, right? The other thing about it, it seems like every single one of these teams has had 1 or 2 isolated events where it's really been kind of a super spreader instance, right? And so I think that's the key component to look about. Utah, for example, this program has invested everything into getting to the Rose Bowl. And so I think that they would be more primed, and they did have a few COVID cases after the season that they were able to manage and not keep from exploding throughout the entire team. You have to think that at this point in time, they understand the assignment, so to speak, and that they're going to be doing everything they can to stay within the health and safety guidelines that the teams have put out and everything like that they're going to try to make it through. They also haven't had any opt-outs, haven't had a lot of exits through the transfer portal. This is a team that wants to play together. They want to finish their season the way that they set out to, which is, dedicating it to their 2 lost teammates, Aaron Lowe and Ty Jordan, and they want to win the Rose Bowl. And I think that's a big part of everything that they're doing in terms of their preparation. Team took a flight from the New England Patriots together so that they could get everyone together. They're doing their best to wear masks, stay isolated, all that kind of stuff. And so it's just, the part that gets, I think, nerve-wracking is you're seeing a lot of these programs where they've had a lot of exits through the transfer portal. You've seen some opt-outs. You're seeing this movement to where the roster numbers of normally being at, 85 scholarships are already down to 65 or 50. And I think the real scary part is the certain position groups, right? And so if you have a position group that maybe has a case, figure it out. Like, how to break out. You've already been through it. You know how to, quote-unquote, isolate from social distance, I guess is a term. You'd think after almost 2 years of this, I'd have all these terms down, but I was trying to forget them all. So
it gets tricky.
So I think Utah is likely better prepared if something does happen. I think the Rose Bowl is adjusting accordingly. They were going to have a media day at Disneyland, and they rescheduled or canceled that, which was probably a good idea. I don't think you want 85 football players walking around with thousands of other Californians and whatnot at Disneyland. So that's smart move on their part. I think they're doing their best to make sure the game goes on, but for the team itself, I think really what it comes down to is just you taking responsibility as a team and as a player to make sure that you get through it. And look, I'm not going to lie, like some of these teams probably don't want to go to bowl games, and so they probably haven't been as dedicated to it. We're seeing Georgia now kind of dealing with a flare-up, right? And they're trying to get through that. And the hope, too, is that maybe they make some adjustments to the protocols and follow the lead of some of these pro leagues, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, I don't want to say like follow the lead of the pro leagues because I don't feel like they have it down either. We've seen them have a slew of players get put into the COVID protocols and have to sit out games. We're seeing NBA games getting canceled, NHL games getting canceled, or postponed, whatever you want to say. NFL games haven't been canceled this season, but like there's been a lot of players having to sit out of games, affecting my fantasy football season. But sorry, that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. I'm just saying. Overall,
on a personal note, it matters to all of us. We're all very frustrated with how fantasy has worked out, unless you're the one winning the league, right?
So about that. I am in championships in one of them. I think I was in the playoffs in another one, but I think I lost this weekend, so that kind of screwed things up. Either way, I say that to say I don't think anybody has it fully set and figured out. We're seeing it literally on all levels. There's some type of struggle. There's been some situations where everyone's getting confused too with the whole vaccination thing. Vaccination was not supposed to prevent you from getting COVID. It's supposed to prevent you from having severe symptoms that could be more dangerous and harmful to you than, a regular cold. So, see all that to say is that no one's got it figured out. Some people may be handling it better than others, but it's kind of a chaos type of thing, and it's something that we're just kind of evolving and learning as we go along and as it evolves. I think that's the hardest part. It's not slowing up. It's, there's new variants every few months, and that's what's making things a little more complicated because at this point, COVID-19 is beating us, unfortunately. But I hate to see that. Coming up next, we're going to dive into how it's affecting other sports, specifically basketball, since that season has already got going and has already had to see some cancellations due to COVID-19. It's a tough road right now.
It's wild. I was hoping we were past this, and we're not.
Man, I hope none of you have New Year's Eve plans that force you to go outside the house. That's all I'm saying. All right, BetOnline has you covered this holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march through college bowls season and the pro football playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code Locked On to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. Remember, you have a bunch of bowl games that we're hoping we actually see played happen this week, so make sure you head on over to betonline.ag and get your bets in. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available. BetOnline is where the game starts. Okay, so we've been talking about college football. The season is ending basically. Once these bowl games wrap up and college football playoffs happen, it's over. But basketball season has just kind of getting started, and they're going to already be affected by their season's already being affected in a bulk of it by COVID-19. We've seen multiple games be canceled, and more recently, Stanford had to cancel their championship game against Vanderbilt in the Diamond Head Classic in Honolulu, which I'm not surprised considering the situations that happened with Hawaii in their bowl game. But Stanford is having players dealing with the health and safety protocols, and so the game was declared a no contest. Stanford played Liberty on Wednesday night, and I guess they paused their team-related activities, and the status of future games will be determined. So their next scheduled game is January 2nd against Cal, and then January 6th against UCLA. But UCLA has also paused team activities as well. They were supposed to play, I think, Arizona and Arizona State on December 30th and January 1st, but those have been postponed because of ongoing COVID-19 outbreak within the program. And so the Bruins now at this point haven't played since December 11th against Marquette. And so we all know UCLA is one of the best teams in the Pac-12 conference, set to be one of the top in, the NCAA tournament. And we're seeing them have to halt a lot of their games because of COVID-19 breakouts. I don't even want to say how do you think this is affecting the players and, dealing, trying to keep their momentum up. Beyond that, this season, in my opinion, doesn't seem like it's going to actually be completed. And I hate to say that because I know how bad it was for those student athletes who couldn't finish their 2020 season. But I mean, 2020, I don't know. I keep getting confused. Their 2019-2020 season. Yeah. Right. So the one they were able to play the tournament last year after having to halted the year before. And I'm sure they figured like, okay, we know how to get through this situation and still allow these student athletes to have a season and play. But at that time, we were seeing COVID-19 cases, decrease, and we were seeing some progress. Now we're back to square one, in my opinion.
In a lot of ways, I think we are. This new variant has just kind of thrown everything for a loop with the contagiousness, with its resistance to vaccination. Having said that, I think really what we know now is that things can and will go on. It's just, like you said, I think that's the immediate thought is like you have to go back to, okay, well, so are we just going to shut everything down again? And how do we deal with that? And the hard part about it is just every single variant that comes out has some new information that we're just not sure yet, of where it is. So I think really what you can do in these situations is you can postpone, you can push things down the road a little bit, and you can start a little later when it comes to the, tournaments and everything like that, or you can, double book games even, as we've seen the NBA start to do, where they kind of have those home and home series. Where you play back-to-back nights, which I think is a good idea in some respects because, it altogether makes it a lot easier to get through things. And I think that's really what the focus has to be right now is finding ways to make it easier to get through everything because it's just the complications that are coming up are so it's frustrating because we all kind of felt like this was under control and now maybe it's not. And I think the other thing too is it's just we've got to find new ways to get through things, right? Like it just can't be the same old just shutting things down or whatever. It's like we can't keep pushing this down the road. And so I think the hope is that leagues find solutions to things or find ways to reschedule so that they can keep it going. But like you said, the hard part is that these kids are out playing and now the momentum's been stopped. And you wonder for a team like UCLA that really does have a lot on the table, how does that affect them?
And it's tough too because with rescheduling comes the thought process of the student athlete's school schedule and, all these other things that are intricate to being a student athlete. It's not like their only job is to play a sport like on the pro level. It's literally so much more to that. And then you count in those situations where this is a lot of athletes' senior year and their last chance to play out at this level or even at all, for some. So it gets frustrating, I'm sure, for the student athletes to deal with, even harder for the administrative, people in charge and staff who have to make these decisions that don't only affect them as in their jobs, but these student athletes in their college careers and possibly future careers. Sticky situation. It sucks. I couldn't even imagine how it would feel when I was like, a student athlete and how it would have felt to have to go through this. Especially too for those who are isolated in states where they're not from there, like how I was in Washington State is literally Pullman is the college town, that's it. So everyone there is pretty much away from family. Tough times, especially through the holidays. So I don't know, it's tough. Pac-12 is going through it, but so is like all of college, all of the nation, honestly, is going through it right now. Not just, and I know a lot of people are probably like, who cares about sports during this time? But I think it's also fair to say that sports is an outlet for a lot of people and a way that people deal with things. And so not to have that outlet can cause even further issues. It's rough.
I think we've proven how important sports really are and how much people care about sports. It's a critical part of society, and I think it's part of the way that we get through the day-to-day until the day-to-days get better and more enjoyable. You have to have these kinds of outlets, and I think the biggest thing right now is it's just you're seeing it across everywhere. Nobody is immune to it, right? Like Duke had to postpone 2 games. We're seeing Harvard cancel a couple games. The bowl games up in flux are going crazy. It looks like maybe there's potential for Central Michigan to go down to the Sun Bowl and play Washington State now, as I'm reading from one of the college football reporters that everybody knows. I should be better about it. Brett McMurphy.
It's okay.
Anyways, it's just, like I think the thing that really sucks right now is I'd love to be talking about what's happening in those games, right? Not if they're happening. I'm not well versed enough in the science of all these viruses and everything like that to make decisions, but it's just, this is another test, I think, in a lot of ways, and you're going to see how some people respond. I think it's another good test for new Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff, who so far has handled everything with aplomb, and we'll see how he does with this. I have no doubt that he's working around the clock to figure things out, because it just seems like that's who he is.
Yeah.
It seems like he's very invested in enjoying the job, and this is not one of the fun parts of the job, but here it is, and we'll see how he handles it, and maybe the Pac-12 comes out of this whole situation better than they did the last time around.
Something I really wanted to address really quickly before we wrap things up here is I got a question from a listener on the Locked On Pac-12 podcast Twitter, and he asked, why do I think that teams are dropping so fast after 0 interruptions during this season? There's no like distinct answer. Like you said, I'm not a scientist. I don't know for sure, but I could definitely see it being that people got comfortable because there weren't any interruptions. So it's like, oh, we can do this and we can do a little more. You start getting comfortable, like kind of easing back into normal, being out with friends and going out to eat and doing little things that before like were super taboo because we were all on lockdown. And now that lockdown doesn't really exist, we're not being forced to quarantine in our house like we were before, and flights are available, all these things. It's like things are more open now, so it kind of allows for situations to be a little more relaxed, which, remember, you're at the end of the day, yes, these are young adults, but they're still student athletes who want to have fun and want to live a college life, and it's kind of being interrupted by what's going on in the world. So I'm not saying that they went out and were reckless, but that's a great possibility as to why we're seeing things ramp up now. I know that if you look across the board, everybody's starting to go out more, enjoy time with friends and stuff. And so it's kind of just a matter of like the way people are handling things, and then the evolution of this disease, the evolution of this virus and how it's mutated, so now we're dealing with another variant that we don't really know how to handle. So I think that's the best answer I can give to that question. Nonetheless, hopefully the NCAA is able to handle things with care, and we'll still see some bowl games happen without interruption.
Yeah, and I think the bottom line is just wish everybody the best, be safe, take care of yourselves, and we'll get through this like we always do.
Yes, couldn't have said it better myself, Bryan. On that note, make sure you guys check out Locked On Utes on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. Bryan Brown and Jake Hatch give you everything you need to know about the Utah Utes, and I know they're getting you guys prepped and ready for the Rose Bowl. Make sure you check them out on Twitter as well at Locked On Utes. Follow Bryan Brown at BrownBearSLC, and then follow the Locked On Pac-12 podcast at LO_Pac-12 on Twitter. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. We're dropping content there as well. It's another way you can watch the podcast. You can listen to the podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. And other than that, thanks for tuning in and making Locked On Pac-12 podcast your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms, as is Locked On Pac-12 and Locked On Utes. Thanks for tuning in and making Locked On Pac-12 podcast your way of staying locked on.